If you told me 8 months ago that politicians would ban dancing, games, singing, hugging, gatherings in private residences, Thanksgiving dinners, church, school, wedding receptions, and funerals, I would have thought you were talking about North Korea or Iran, not the United States of America. And yet, here we are. Remember, 3 weeks ago, the Democrats were totally fine celebrating Election Day in giant crowds, but now they want to forbid you from celebrating Thanksgiving with your family. In fact, tonight, here are 9 COVID rules that are so crazy it's hard to believe they're real, but they are. In the state of Oregon, if you host more than 6 people at your house for Thanksgiving, you could face a $1,000 fine or time in jail. In Pennsylvania, you must wear a mask in your own house if you have somebody in the house who doesn't live there. In the state of California, Governor Gavin Newsom has banned your family from celebrating Thanksgiving with more than 10 people. That's bad enough in and of itself, but Newsom himself was just caught attending a birthday party with more than a dozen people from various households. This, by the way, this is what tyrants do. Rules for thee, not for me. Governor Newsom also imposed an essentially statewide curfew in California between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Because apparently at 9:59 p.m. the coronavirus is too busy to infect you, but at 10:01 p.m. you're fair game. Why should anybody on God's green earth obey these tyrannical dictates when they're not based in science and Newsom was caught violating his own rules for a party? By the way, Governor Gavin Newsom got the idea of a COVID curfew from Saudi Arabia. Imagine taking governing advice, governing cues from a repressive nation that subjugates women, that tortures political prisoners, denies citizens the right to free speech, and arrests dissidents without cause or due process. But I digress. The mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, has shut down outdoor dining at restaurants just days before the biggest dining day of the year, which is supposed to be the day before Thanksgiving. In Philadelphia, the draconian government lockdowns won't let you have a gathering in your house with anybody who doesn't live there. These politicians are nuts. Also in Philadelphia, by the way, outdoor dining is limited to just 4 people sitting at one table, all of whom must be from the same home. In the state of New York, Governor Cuomo has limited private gatherings at private residences to a maximum of 10 people. It's absolutely insane, and by the way, please don't tell the AP style book I used the word insane. Apparently, now it's ableist against mentally ill people to use the word insane. It is insane, by the way, that Governor Cuomo thinks he has the authority to prohibit private gatherings on private property when the people aren't sick and haven't even been exposed to the virus. And that's not the only dumb New York COVID rule. New York City schools are closed, which defies the science that shows children are more likely to die from the flu than from COVID-19, and that schools are not significant vectors of transmission of the virus, even to teachers and school staff. Nonetheless, the teachers' unions want schools closed, so Governor Cuomo closed them. But while the schools are closed, apparently political fundraisers are A-OK. You can see that on the screen for yourself. And perhaps the craziest COVID rule of all, the CDC wants your college student returning home for Thanksgiving to wear a mask indoors. Don't touch the family pet, the CDC says. Bring their own food. Bring their own utensils. Don't go into the kitchen, and whatever you do not sing. Can't make this stuff up because these bureaucrats are nuts. And keep in mind, these rules, they're not for everybody. These rules are for you. These rules apparently do not apply to the power-hungry politicos who mandated them. For example, California Governor Gavin Newsom bans gatherings of more than 10 people, but he attends a party with dozens of people at a restaurant which appears to be indoors. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot locked down Chicago again, but she celebrated Joe Biden alongside massive crowds in the streets, and her excuse was the crowds were going to gather whether or not she attended, so she might as well attend. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi likewise planned to host a giant congressional reception, even though you are not allowed to do the same thing. Pelosi canceled the reception, but only after massive backlash. Meanwhile, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and her staff attended a Biden victory speech in Wilmington, Delaware. Keep in mind, Delaware is on Mayor Bowser's list of high-risk states, which means you are required to quarantine after you return. But did her staff quarantine after they returned from the state? No, they did not. Her staff claims this trip was essential travel and therefore they are exempt from the quarantine order. Are we the people really okay with this blatant hypocrisy, this double standard from our elected officials? Finally, not only have these power-drunk politicians violated our rights in order to accumulate power for themselves, it's chilling the power the leftist politicians have given our enemies, too. Now our enemies around the world know that all they have to do is unleash a biological weapon slightly more lethal than the flu, but not for children, and our entire country collapses. Our economy, our schools, the mental health of our citizens, our basic liberties. While our top autocrats, Dr. Fauci to be specific, tells us that America has an independent spirit, sure, but now is the time to do what you're told.
So each of our countries have that independent spirit, but we don't want to be told what to do. Well, I understand that, but now is the time to do what you're told.
But here's the question we should all be asking. Why on earth should we blindly obey so-called experts and tyrannical politicians in the name of science who are trampling our rights and our freedoms with anti-science lockdown policies that they don't follow themselves?